A great rumble shook the clouds above the valley of Tyrish, rolling through the alien world like a beast unchained. The wind howled not with storm, but sorrow. Fire fell from the heavens, scattered like shattered glass. And among its ships, burning, spiraling ships, beneath that bleeding sky, a young alien mother ran. Her name was Ashira. Her skin shimmered a soft violet, and her eyes held galaxies of pain and love. One arm cradled her daughter, barely 5 cycles old. The other pulled them both through mud and smoke as explosions thundered behind them. Her breath came sharp, her legs ached. But she did not stop. She could not stop. Behind her, war raged between the Dominion and the scattered resistance. Neither side had asked for refugees to be spared. Neither cared that children still clung to mothers. Ashira had seen friends burned alive by drones that did not ask questions. She had seen fathers torn apart while begging for peace. She had seen too much, but she still believed in something better. She had to, for her daughter. For the small hand gripping her tunic with such fragile strength. They reached a ridge. Ashira pressed her daughter against a stone wall, panting. The child whimpered. Ashira cupped her face gently. "Stay here, my star," she whispered, her voice trembling. But fate never listens. From the trees above came a low, deadly whir. A flash, a sound like thunder cracking bone. And then agony. An arrow made of jagged plasma tore through her chest. It knocked her back with a sickening force. She gasped, the wind stolen from her lungs. The world tilted. Colors blurred. Pain, raw and molten, spread like fire through her ribs. She fell. Her daughter screamed. The soldiers came. Not machines, but Dominion elites, armor black as the void. Visors red and cold. They walked past her bleeding body. They walked toward the child. Her a single quotes as hand twitched. She tried to move. She couldn't. Her thoughts screamed louder than her voice. She wasn't supposed to die like this. Not like this. Not when she had held on so long. Not when her child was so close to safety. And then a shadow moved between them. He was tall, strangely calm. Not armored, not armed. Not of their world. Just a human. They all paused. The soldiers raised their rifles. He didn't flinch. The human didn't look dangerous. He didn't carry any obvious weapon. His clothes were dirty. His face was scarred from old burns. His eyes were a dull brown, but somehow alive, deeper than most. Like they had seen too much and decided to keep standing anyway. He knelt beside Ashira slowly. His hands didn't shake. He looked at her wound, then at her daughter, then at the soldiers, and he spoke. "You've done enough," he said softly. One soldier raised his weapon. "Move," came the cold mechanical voice. But the human stayed. Ishira watched with half-blurred vision. Her heart slowed. Her body wanted to give in. But her mind clung to one impossible thought. Why would a human, one of the smallest, weakest species, stand before death without blinking? She had heard rumors of humans. Stubborn, emotional, unpredictable. They were said to be fragile, primitive. But dangerous when cornered. But this wasn't a cornered man. This was a choice. The soldier fired. Not at the human, but beside him. A warning shot. The ground exploded. Still, the human didn't move. "Leave," he repeated, voice lower now. Colder. Not loud, but sharp enough to cut through fear. The soldiers hesitated. Something shifted in the air. Not magic, not power. Something harder to explain. Something beneath the surface of this man's skin. His heartbeat didn't race. His breath didn't change. It was as if he had faced death before and simply stopped fearing it. The leader of the Dominion squad gave a hand signal. They backed away. They actually backed away. No one spoke as they disappeared into the smoke. The human exhaled, not relief. Something else. Grief, maybe. or guilt. Or both. He gently lifted Ashira into his arms. Her blood soaked into his shirt. She tried to speak, but her throat burned. She could only whisper, "Why help?" His answer came slow, "Because someone should." The child sobbed as he carried them both across the battlefield, away from the ridge, into the trees. Drones flew overhead, but none followed. The sky wept again, but softer now, more like rain. And as they vanished into the dark, Ashira realized something that made her want to live, even through the pain. This human was not a soldier, not a leader, not a healer. He was simply human. And somehow that was enough to turn death away. The forest was quiet, but not peaceful. The branches above moaned with the wind, their leaves wet with ash and rain. Strange creatures rustled in the underbrush, watching with cautious eyes. The air smelled of smoke and damp moss. Far in the distance, faint booms still echoed like a world groaning in its last breath. He moved quickly, but gently. The human carried Ashira in his arms while her daughter clung to his back, too scared to speak. Each step was a struggle, not because she was heavy, but because time was running out. The wound in Ashira's chest was deep. The arrow had missed her heart, but not by much. Blood soaked her robes, her breath shallow and sharp. Her skin, once glowing violet, had dulled to a pale gray. Her eyes fluttered open every few minutes, then closed again in pain. She should not have been alive, but she was, and the only reason was the man, now wading through mud to save her. His name was Cole, and he didn't know why he was still doing this. He had found the child first, crouched near her dying mother, sobbing in a language he barely understood. The soldiers had arrived seconds later. Instinct had taken over. He stepped in. He had expected to die. But they hadn't killed him. Didn't understand why. And that scared him more than anything. They reached a small hollow beneath a fallen tree, hidden by thick roots and moss. Cole laid Ashira down carefully and placed the child beside her. The girl curled up next to her mother's side, holding her hand tightly. She did not cry anymore. She simply stared at Cole with wide, silent eyes. Cole tore open his backpack. It was mostly empty. He had used the last of his supplies 2 days ago, but he still had one thing, a human-made healing gel. It wasn't meant for alien biology, but it was the only thing he had. He looked at Ashira's face. This might hurt. He whispered. She didn't respond. He pressed the gel into the wound. She gasped, her body arching slightly. The child flinched. Cole held her down gently, murmuring words neither of them understood, but his voice was calm, steady. Like waves hitting stone, the bleeding slowed, not stopped. But slowed. Cole sat back, exhausted. His hands trembled now, not from fear, from pressure, the weight of a life, of two. He stared at the fire he had built, small, hidden, barely warm. And then the whispers came, not from the trees. From the girl. She spoke in broken common tongue. Why? You not leave? Cole blinked. The child repeated herself, slower this time. Why you not run? He didn't answer at first. What could he say? Because he had once watched his own sister bleed out while others looked away. Because this war wasn't even his, but he couldn't pretend it wasn't real. Because something deep inside him refused to let children die when he could still stand. He stared at the fire and spoke quietly. I don't like watching people break. The child tilted her head. You, strange human. Cole smiled softly. You wouldn't be the first to say that. Behind them, Ashira stirred. Her voice was barely a breath. The soldiers. They feared you. Cole's smile faded. He remembered. The way they paused. The way they had lowered their weapons. It wasn't logic. It wasn't mercy. It was something else. I don't know why. He said. But deep down, Maybe he did. Maybe it was the stories. The stories the galaxy whispered about humans. Stories of their madness, their fire, their refusal to die quietly. Stories of men who stood against armies with nothing but rage. Stories of women who walked into poison to carry a friend. Aliens called them reckless. Others called them cursed. But one word returned again and again. Unpredictable. And in war, unpredictable meant dangerous. Ishira single quotes SIs found his, they say. Humans carry storms in their hearts. Cole didn't reply. Instead, he stood. The forest was too quiet, too still. He looked past the trees. Something was watching. Stay here, he said. He walked into the dark, past the edge of the clearing, past the FIRELIGHT. There, hidden between roots, a drone hovered, small, silver. Dominion Meg. Cole knelt in front of it. I see you, he said. The drone whirred. You're tracking me, aren't you? Silence. He leaned closer. Then tell them this. If they come for the girl again, they'll learn why humans are feared. And with that, he reached out and smashed the drone with a single strike. The metal crumpled. He didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He simply returned to the hollow where a wounded mother and a brave little girl waited, and as he sat beside them again, he whispered to himself, I don't want to be feared, I just want them safe. And far away, in a ship orbiting the world, a Dominion commander watched the destroyed. Drone feed and narrowed her eyes. Send a unit, she ordered. I want to know what kind of human kills with mercy. Commander Zelenara did not blink. Her red visor reflected the static of the broken drone feed. Frozen on the last frame, a human kneeling before the machine, his face half lit by fire, his eyes strangely steady. Her officers stood behind her, silent, waiting. Zel single quotes Nara was known across the Dominion fleet as a precise and ruthless tactician. She had never lost a planet. She didn't make decisions based on emotion. But this human, he made her pause. You say he shielded the alien. Child, she said, her voice sharp and cool. The officer nodded. He carried the mother too, another added. Applied field medicine, treated her wound. Didn't ask for help, didn't run. Zelenara's fingers tapped against her console. Odd, she whispered. Humans usually run. No one replied. The silence hummed like a blade in the room. Zel single quotes Nara turned toward the view outside the command ship down to the forest world of Tyrish. Smoke still curled in spirals where battles had scorched the land. She could see the shattered ruins of cities built by other species long forgotten. She could see the burning scars left by her own army, but one thing she could not see was him. And that unsettled her. Dispatch a stealth squad, she ordered. Non-lethal capture. Bring the human to me. Should we terminate the others? The officer asked. Zel single quotes Nara turned her head slowly. No, she said. If he is what I think he is, they're the reason he's still there. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, Cole stirred from sleep. It wasn't a peaceful sleep. His dreams were filled with things he didn't want to remember. Cities in flames, a shuttle crash, hands reaching out from under rubble, screams that turned into echoes. He opened his eyes. Dawn had begun to creep through the branches. Soft golden light kissed the moss. Birds that didn't look like birds chirped. From above, for a second, it was almost beautiful. But pain brought him back. Ishira groaned softly. She was alive, breathing, pale, but her wound had stopped bleeding for now. Her daughter Lyra was curled against her, awake but silent. She looked at Cole as soon as he moved. He offered a tired smile. You okay? He asked. The child nodded, then glanced toward the trees. Cole understood. We need to move soon. He helped Ishira drink a few sips of water. Every time she coughed, He winced. She was stronger than she should be, but she wouldn't last long without better care. Where is your people's nearest outpost? Cole asked softly. Hira blinked slowly. Gone, she whispered. Destroyed. 3 days ago. We're all scattered now. Cole swallowed hard. He looked down at Lyra. She was just a kid. She should have been laughing somewhere, learning songs, holding a pet. Not crawling through war zones. He stood and scanned the area. They couldn't. Stay here. But before he could speak, a sharp snap echoed from the trees. Cole froze. His instinct screamed. A soft click came from above. Then another. He turned slowly and saw them. 6 shadows moved between the trees, silent, armored. Dominion stealth units. They had found him. One raised a hand. A signal. Cole held out both arms slowly, stepping in front of Hira and Lyra. You don't want to do this, he said, calmly. No response. The lead soldier stepped forward. Unlike the others, his helmet faceplate slid open, revealing dark, unreadable eyes and silver skin. Come with us, human, the soldier said. Commander Zelenara wishes to speak. Cole narrowed his eyes. You tried to kill her yesterday, and now you're asking me to come politely? The soldier's tone did not change. You are not like the others. She wants to know why. Behind. Cole, Hira tried to sit up. Don't, she whispered, voice hoarse. They lie. They always lie. The soldier tilted his head. We will not harm them. Cole's jaw tensed. He stepped forward, raising his hands in surrender. Go, he said. But they stay safe. The soldier nodded once, but as they turned to leave, Cole did something unexpected. He reached down, picked up a small device hidden in the dirt near his fire, and pressed a button. Nothing happened. Not yet. But somewhere, far off in the ruins of an old outpost, something hummed to life. An old human signal beacon. Long abandoned. Waiting for one touch. Then, he looked back at Hira and Lyra. Trust me, he said softly. They didn't understand what he had done, but they saw something in his eyes. Hope. Cole, let the soldiers bind his hands and lead him away. Into the trees. He didn't look back. He didn't need to, whatever was coming. He was ready. The Dominion prison ship was silent. No alarms, no shouting. Just the low hum of power running through the walls and the distant sound of cold boots on metal floors. Inside the main chamber, Cole sat alone, hands bound in magnetic cuffs, ankles chained to the floor, back straight, head bowed. He wasn't afraid, but he wasn't calm either. His thoughts wandered. Not to escape. But to the child's face. When he left. Lyra hadn't said a word. She had only stared at him as the soldiers dragged him into the trees. Her small hand had reached out once, then fallen. It haunted him, but he had no regrets because this wasn't just about her anymore. Something bigger was moving in the shadows, and he had lit the signal. Above him, hidden cameras recorded his every movement, every blink, every breath. Dominion scientists were studying him, scanning him, watching his blood pressure, heart rate, stress patterns. Waiting for something. Strange. That was the problem. He wasn't doing anything strange. He was just. Sitting there. As if he had all the time in the world. In another chamber. Commander Zelenara watched him through a translucent screen. Her jaw tightened. He's hiding something, she muttered. The officers around her said nothing. They were trained not to question her thoughts, but she hated the silence. So she broke it. Why does a human walk into death for aliens he doesn't know? She asked aloud. The room stayed quiet. Zel Nara leaned forward. Release him. The officers turned sharply. Commander, I said, release him. Not into the wild. Into the observation dome. I want to see what he does when he thinks he's alone. The orders were followed. Soon after, Cole was escorted into a wide chamber. Tall glass walls circled him, showing only stars and the curve of the planet Tyrish far below. Artificial grass covered the floor. A fake sun gave off a warm yellow glow. It was meant to relax prisoners or confuse them. Cole didn't sit. He didn't lie down. He simply walked to the edge, placed a hand on the glass, and stared at the stars. Minutes passed. Then hours. And he still didn't speak. Until finally he whispered, "I know you're listening." In the control room, Zelenara flinched. Cole continued, voice low. "Even. You think humans are simple, emotional, wild. But the truth is, we just remember pain differently." He turned to face the glass, knowing the cameras were there. "You want to know why I helped her? Why I stayed? It's because I've seen too many people turn away." His hand clenched slowly. "And because sometimes standing between someone and death is the only thing that makes you feel alive." Zelenara's hands tightened behind her back. She had heard speeches before. From rebels. From dying soldiers, but not like this. Not from someone who didn't raise his voice. She walked out of the room. When she entered the dome, Cole turned toward her without surprise. They stared at each other in silence. Then he smiled. Not wide. Just a small, tired curve. "Commander Zelenara," he said softly. She stepped closer, her voice cold. "Who are you really, human?" Cole shrugged. "Just a man who got tired of watching people bleed." "You're not military, not Dominion, not resistance. So why are you here?" His eyes flicked upward. "Because something is coming. And you're not ready." Zelenara narrowed her eyes. "A threat?" "No," Cole said quietly. "A truth." Before she could reply, alarms began to scream across the ship. She spun toward the wall screen. Bright red warnings flashed. Unauthorized signal detected. Approaching vessel. Unregistered human beacon. Zelenara stared at the feed. A human ship long thought destroyed was rising from Tyresh's surface. Cole stepped beside her and whispered, "That's what happens when you ignore distress signals left by people. You thought we're dead." Then he walked past her. And this time, no one stopped him. The sky above Tyrish turned gold as the human ship rose. It was old, patched with burn scars and missing parts of its hull, but it flew. Engines roared like thunder across the clouds, cutting through the silence that had hung over the world for weeks. Animals fled into the trees. Dominion scouts looked up in shock. From the forest floor. Lyra saw it first. She pointed to the sky, her tiny voice shaking. "Mama, look." Ashira, still weak, turned her head. Her breath caught. A human ship. Not Dominion. Not resistance. Something different. Something lost. A memory from an old war. Impossible. She whispered. In orbit, the Dominion fleet scrambled. Orders shouted. Defenses raised. All eyes locked onto the ancient human vessel rising like a ghost from the ashes of Tyrish. Inside the command ship. Commander Zelenara stared at the screen, silent. Cole stood beside her, still uncuffed. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. He just waited. "What is that ship?" she asked. "It's called the Ember Line," Cole said softly. "Last of its class. Thought it burned with its crew 6 years ago, but it didn't." Zelenara turned to him slowly. "You activated it." "I only woke it up. Someone else kept it alive." On the screen, the Ember Line hovered in place, silent. It didn't fire. Didn't run. It simply waited. Then a signal came through. An old voice. Rough. Cracked with age. "This is Captain Holly of the Ember Line. We received a priority ping. We're here to collect 1 Cole Marin and any civilians under his protection." Zelenara's eyes narrowed. "You're military." Cole shook his head. "I was. Not anymore. Now I'm just a man with a promise." "A promise to who?" He paused. Then answered, "To a little girl with too much fear in her eyes." Zelenara stared at him, then at the screen. Outside, smaller Dominion ships formed a line in front of the Ember Line. A warning. Then came a voice from a Dominion officer. Halt your approach or you will be fired upon. But the Ember Line didn't flinch. It moved forward. Slowly. Deliberately. Then the impossible happened. The Dominion ships moved aside. Not because they were ordered, because someone aboard each ship had heard the signal. A human distress beacon. Something old and buried. Something coded deep inside Dominion protocol back from the early wars when both sides agreed that some cries should never be ignored. Zelenara's voice dropped. They're standing down. Cole looked at her. Even your soldiers remember what humanity is capable of when you push too far. Zelenara clenched her jaw. You're not leaving. Cole turned to face her fully. You can stop me. Chain me. Lie to me. But the truth is already moving. And when it reaches your empire, you'll understand why kindness is humanity's greatest weapon. Before she could reply, the wall shook. The Ember Line had docked. A hiss of air. A doorway opened, and stepping through was an old man in a battered coat. Gray beard, one eye replaced by a dull blue lens. He looked at Cole and nodded. You still causing problems? He asked. Cole smirked. Only the good kind. Come on then, the captain said. We've got a medical bay and 2 beds. One for the mother, one for the child. Zelenara stepped forward. I could stop you. The captain didn't even look at her. Then stop me. Silence. Cole turned back once more, looking at her, not with anger, but pity. There's still time to change, he said. Don't wait until it's too late. And with that, he stepped onto the ship. Minutes later, the Ember Line pulled away from the Dominion fleet, flying back toward the planet. Not with weapons. Not with soldiers, but with 2 survivors and 1 stubborn human who had decided not to let death win. And above, in the stars, something shifted. A story was beginning to spread. A human had faced a fleet with nothing but kindness, and the fleet had backed down. The Ember Line flew low across the broken surface of Tyrish. Fires still burned in distant valleys, and craters marked the land like open wounds. But here, just below the edge of the dark mountains, there was a silence untouched by war. Cole sat near Ashira's bed in the ship's medical bay. Lights above hummed softly. Machines blinked in quiet rhythm. The air smelled of metal and medicine. His single quotes S chest rose and fell with each breath, slow but steady now. The gel had stopped the bleeding. The old human ship had real doctors, real tech. Not advanced by Dominion standards, but real. Honest. And somehow it worked. The child, Lyra, sat curled in a chair across from them, holding a stuffed toy one of the crew had given her. It was old, stitched from rough cloth. Not beautiful, but it brought comfort. And in this moment, that meant everything. Cole stared at Ashira's face. So peaceful now, but he remembered the fear, the blood. The moment she collapsed with that arrow through her chest. He had not known her name then. He had not needed to. It was enough to see a mother fall to save her child. He reached forward and gently touched her hand. Her fingers twitched. Then her eyes opened slowly. Cole leaned forward. You're safe, he said quietly. Ishira blinked. Her voice was weak. We're on a ship? Cole nodded. Human ship. The Ember Line. You'll be okay. She looked toward Lyra, who was already climbing onto the bed, wrapping her arms around her. You saved her, Ashira whispered. Cole shook his head. You did. I just stood in the way. She closed her eyes again, holding Lyra close. No one ever stood for us before. Not like that. Not without reason. Cole was silent for a long time. Then he said something he hadn't told anyone in years. My sister died when I was a boy. Ashira opened her eyes slowly. Why? Because no one helped, he said softly. A storm hit our outpost. Supplies ran out. She was sick. People were scared. They turned away. I begged. No one came. His eyes didn't water. They burned. I swore, if I ever had the chance, I'd be the one who stayed. Even if no one else did. Ashira squeezed his hand. You did more than stay. Above them, in the bridge, the crew watched the planet's terrain roll by. Captain Hawley adjusted their heading. We're close, he muttered. Scanners found a safe zone near the Crystal Ridge. Old Terra refugee shelter. It's buried, but still functional. The younger officer beside him hesitated. Sir. We sure it's safe to leave them there? It's not about safety, Hawley replied. It's about dignity. They deserve a choice. Not chains. Hours passed. The ship landed gently in a clearing surrounded by tall stone trees. Cole, Ashira, and Lyra stood at the ramp's edge. The sun was setting, painting the world in deep orange light. Winds moved softly. No soldiers, no gunfire. Only silence. Cole carried a small pack of supplies. Food, blankets, medicine. Ishira held her daughter's hand. You could come with us, she said quietly. Cole looked out across the trees. I can't. Not yet. Why? He hesitated. Then spoke. Because there are more like you out there. People hiding. People bleeding. And they need someone to stand between them and the end. Ashira lowered her head. Then stepped forward and hugged him. It was quiet, simple, full of meaning. Thank you, she whispered. Cole nodded, eyes closed, then turned to Lyra. She looked up at him with big, uncertain eyes. He crouched and offered her the stuffed toy. Keep it safe, he said. I will. She promised. Then, without warning, she hugged him too. When they pulled away, Cole stepped back toward the ramp. As it lifted, he watched them fade into the trees. The captain stood beside him. We could have taken them farther. To Earth, to Mars, to one of the safe moons. Cole shook his head. No, they're not ours to carry. We just give them enough to stand again. Hawley nodded. The ship lifted into the air, and as it rose above Tyrish, Cole looked out at the stars. He knew the Dominion hadn't given up. He knew the war wasn't over, but for now, one mother lived. One child smiled, and that was enough. Weeks passed. The galaxy moved on as it always did. Battles continued in the far systems. Planets were claimed, others burned. Alliances shifted. Dominion fleets spread like shadows. Resistance pockets fought like dying stars. But one quiet story began to echo through the darkness. Not from empires. From people. Small voices, hushed and shaking, passed it on in hidden corners and smuggler dens, in refugee camps and forgotten tunnels. They spoke of a human, a single man, unarmed, unknown, and unshaken. They told of how he stood before death for a mother and child not his own. They said he spoke without threats, that soldiers listened, that a fleet moved aside for him, not because he fought, but because he refused to be moved. Some said it was a lie. Others swore they saw it with their own eyes, but the name began to spread. Not Cole. They didn't know his name. They called him the Shield. On board the Ember Line, Cole stood in the hangar bay, tightening the straps of his gear. The lights flickered slightly as the old ship prepped for its next descent. Captain Hawley entered, holding a datapad. We picked up another signal. Nearby moon, half-collapsed bunker. Dominion raid incoming, Cole nodded. Any civilians? Hawley looked up. Double quotes 30-7. Maybe more, all unarmed. Cole picked up his pack. Send me down. Hawley frowned. You sure you want to keep doing this? You're one man, one human. Cole met his eyes. That's enough. Hawley chuckled sadly. Never seen someone carry so much weight with just 2 shoulders. Then help me carry it. The ramp lowered. Cole stepped into the wind. His boots hit cracked ground. Smoke drifted from the horizon. A siren wailed far away. He walked calmly toward the broken entrance of the shelter, already hearing panic inside. He could hear children crying, adults shouting in fear. The Dominion ships were still far, but not far enough. As he reached the doors, a guard aimed a weapon at him. Not Dominion, just scared, unsure. "Stop," the man said. "Who are you?" Cole raised his hands slow and steady. "Someone who doesn't run." The man hesitated, then lowered his weapon. Inside the shelter, people looked up, wide-eyed, exhausted, injured. Cole didn't shout. He didn't lead like a hero. He simply found the youngest child and helped them to their feet. Then the next. And the next. He patched wounds, shared food, fixed a water pipe. Nothing dramatic. Nothing loud. But something changed. The fear in their eyes faded, just a little, and when the Dominion dropships arrived on the ridge, Cole walked out to meet them. Just like before. No gun. No armor. Only the same steady walk and the same tired eyes. The soldiers paused again. This time, the captain knew his face. He frowned behind his mask. "You," he said. Cole nodded. "Me." The captain looked toward the shelter. "You're alone." "I'm human," Cole replied. "That's never the same as alone." The soldiers didn't fire. They watched him for a long moment, and then they turned back because they remembered. Because somewhere deep inside the rules and ranks and orders, they still remembered what fear had once taught them, what humans became when hope was stolen from them. They became the wall between life and death. They became the shield, the ember line. Return to orbit with no prisoners. Only survivors. Cole stood in the medical bay again, this time tending to an old woman who had given her food to the children. The ship's mechanic leaned against the door, watching him. "You don't sleep much," she said. "Someone's always hurting." Cole answered, "You can't save everyone." He looked at her. "I don't need to. I just need to be there when it matters." The mechanic smiled. "You ever think the universe didn't make you human by accident?" Cole didn't reply. He simply continued working. Below them, the galaxy kept turning. But now, in quiet corners, people waited for a shadow at their door, a shape in the dark who came not to fight, but to stand. And when they whispered stories to their children, they didn't speak of wars or empires. They spoke of the man who stood between a child and a burning arrow, and how humanity, even in its simplest form, became the reason someone lived.